under the sycamore tree, the dark trees that blow, baby, in the dark trees that blow, and I'll be
And welcome to this week's edition of Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Bryon Kazowski, and beside me
is Ben Durant.
Ben.
Bryon.
It's been an awesome Twin Peaks weekend.
It's been great.
Yeah,
Yes, lots of surprises. I'm quite happy.
Fantastic episode.
Yes, good old Twin Peaks The Return Part 6. Its originally aired date was June 11th, 2017, and the name of it is Don't Die.
So many theories, so many things that go through my head, your head, and the community at large's head. And it's overwhelming almost. I get overwhelmed about how many things could this be, but it's so exciting.
It's so exciting, and I feel like I need to even watch this a few more times, because there's things like I feel like something is happening, something's going on, and if I could watch it a few more times, I'd even see more of what's going on.
I totally agree. And this week we're actually recording a day early, so my second viewing, I haven't had one yet, but I am trying to watch the previous week's episode before the new episode. So I get that refresher.
So you get to watch it like 3 times?
Yeah. I mean, I just think about Twin Peaks all week now.
I'm not thinking. It's
thinking,
always been our lives.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking. I don't want to watch anything else. I just want to rewatch.
I think what Scott Ryan said when he was on the show. I feel the same way. That my life is kind of like there's so many other good television shows, but I'm always thinking I'd like to go back to Twin Peaks. I just want to rewatch this.
Yeah, like at this point, I could start watching Fargo or start watching.
I still haven't watched Fargo.
I'm gonna wait till September. I'm not gonna dive into anything.
I'm one episode behind. I have one episode left of The Leftovers. And then maybe I'll jump into Fargo.
Yeah, I might do that. But all I think about is Twin Peaks.
That's our lives.
Yeah.
So this it starts off basically where the credits ended with Dougie hanging out around the statue,
looking at the shoes.
Yeah.
And, last week I mentioned about Jeffries and the firewalk with me and everything, but we talked more and a lot of theories. And I think I kind of go towards that direction of he's just remembering being an agent, but he's looking at the shoes, which is interesting because he lost his shoes.
Yes, that's right.
And that is a very interesting little reference to the Wizard of Oz, the ruby red shoes.
There's no place like home. If he could just tap his shoes together, maybe he'd get home.
Well, he's not in his own shoes right now. He's in someone else's shoes.
I like this. This is deep.
Yeah, and when you put on your shoes, no matter if you're in a hotel, you're a friend's house, you put your shoes on, that's a bit of home. And I feel like he's looking at those shoes. And
he wants his own shoes.
He wants his own shoes.
Yes.
And he's Dorothy, and he's in Wizard of Oz right now, and he needs to get back home. So
and there's music. Johnny's Jewels, Windswept is playing underneath there, and it kind of is throughout the whole episode. This music is played. I mean, it happens later on when he's in his office with his boss, and throughout the whole. And I love the music. It sounds great.
You can get it off of it's on iTunes and Spotify. And
I was listening today.
It's an amazing album. It's really good.
And it just came out this year. This album,
like it came out a couple weeks right before the season started. Yep.
The police bring Dougie Cooper home, and it's so funny. His wife is the one that dropped him off, and she forgets to pick him up. She forgets he doesn't have his car. And
he got 2 rides from Jade, which still cracks me up every time he says it. 2 rides.
2 rides.
Yeah, she forgot, and then she had to get him. Well, the cop was like, you can't be out here, and the guy's like, are you drunk? Are you on drugs? And he points at his badge,
right?
And he's like, don't touch that. but you can tell this almost like childlike.
Yes.
Oh, that was me once.
Yeah.
I had a badge.
Right. It's still going to the statue being the lawman, and he's still referring to that he is a man of the law.
Yeah.
And right, even when they bring him home, he's still trying to play with that badge. And it's funny because his wife almost says he likes, and I almost felt like I wanted to finish her sentence, he likes shiny things or
Yes.
something. Like, I felt like that's what she was going to say.
Yep.
He's like a little child and he likes shiny things. And it's interesting later on, I think when Cooper is in his son's bedroom, I think they're cowboy curtains. I think there's some cowboy themes going on in his bedroom.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So, Dougie Cooper there is back in his house, and they're hanging out, and they get an envelope, which I think the police, when they drop him off, they give him the envelope, which I think is Jade and him, and it's the people who I guess
Going into the house together. He's
Yes.
being blackmailed.
Right,
Yeah.
he's being blackmailed. He owes $50,000.
Well, he really owes $20,000
Yes,
or whatever.
He lost $20,000, and the interest rate has gone up.
to 50.
Yes,
And I mean, like
and now 52.
52. And I like how, Janey takes care, she really sticks it to him.
She gets things done. She doesn't mess
Man.
around.
At first nobody really knew where we were going to go with this character. But man, she is not going to be messed around with.
Right.
Which is scary. She sees the whole Jade thing, and Cooper says, or Dougie says, Jade, and smiles.
Two rides.
Two rides. And it reminds me of New Shoes, sort of. This
Yeah,
whole
it really does.
Leo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
New shoes.
Two rides, New Shoes.
Oh, man.
But she doesn't get that mad about this.
I mean, I think she's a problem solver. Like, her job is she's always trying to take care of the house,
Yeah.
and how can we fix this, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And that, part of me, for me, it really puts some weight behind that. She's just there to take care of Dougie, and is she hired to do this? Does someone ask her to do this?
I don't agree with that, but I like your theory that she
Yeah.
might be in there. Yeah.
There's something more to it.
Right.
And I also feel like her taking care of these these bookkeepers that are blackmailing them, I kind of feel like this is her way of like, I got enough crap going on. I got to watch this guy get off our backs. And then she gives it to him. I like how she just gives him 25 and
Well, I feel like this feels to me very Mark Frost. Like, she's talking about, I'm part of the 99%.
99%.
Really, that, like, he's like, wow, how can you treat people this way? How can you, like, and I thought it was an excellent speech, and I thought Naomi Watts was amazing, and it was so good.
Yeah.
And I could totally hear Mark Frost writing this. It's like, really, this is our society. We're talking about, like, the 1% owns, what is it? Like, I forgot what percentage, but it's a high percentage. Let's say 80% of the wealth.
Yeah.
Or it's even higher probably than that, but let's say it's 80% of the wealth. And it's like, we live in this country where, like, these rich people don't care about us, and they don't take care of us, and how could you treat us so badly? And I feel like she was kind of like standing up for all of us. Like, we have crappy cars, and we're just trying to take care of the family, and we're just trying to get by, and how dare you do this? How dare you treat us this way? I thought it was like,
Yeah, and they're asking more what a bank would give you in interest.
Yes, right. That whole thing about, like, a bank wouldn't even really give 1%.
Yeah.
And, like, I think giving you 25% is more than fair. Now leave us alone.
Yep, and I love how they're just kind of like, wow, okay. Like,
I forgot how they put it, but yeah, it's like
she's a tough dame.
Tough dame, broad.
Yeah,
right.
but like basically, like, okay, that's the end of that story. That side story is pretty much over.
So here's the thing: is so I do
think.
yes, but you know how there was these two cars. So I still think there was two storylines going on. I think there was a hit. There was people that are out to get Dougie, and I still think it's related to Mr. C.
Me too.
And then there was these people that he owed money to. So I do feel like, and I don't know if when you saw these two cars, if that was it, or if that was just another car that was hijacking.
I think they were going to steal the car. So that scene when the car blows up in part 5, when I was rewatching it, I noticed they're in a area where all the houses are on the market.
Yeah,
they're boarded up.
Yeah,
and was like, I'm gonna look for cars and people. Now there are cars and driveways, but a lot of these buildings I think this area is a big foreclosure area. And I think a lot of people lost their homes. And that woman who's across the street might be a squatter because there's no furniture beyond a table and a chair and a couch. I feel like she's squatting or she's just put there. I don't believe it could be her home because it's also interesting when the cops show up in this part, they find Dougie Love's license plate on the roof of that house. But they don't knock on the door to ask if they've seen anything.
Yeah.
I feel they don't think anybody even lives there.
It's funny. It's almost like a reference to part 1 where they wanted to see about the knock on the neighbor's door, and this time they don't even care to knock on the door. It's kind of like ignore. But and then I really feel like it was the exact same 119. Like it was almost the exact same take.
Me too.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was. Yeah, it wasn't like it was a different version of it. It was like the exact same version of 119.
Yes. I thought the same thing. Like, I'm having deja vu. Did we just see this? Because I want to go back and rewatch that episode because I wonder if you hear that. Because you actually hear that someone's walking on the roof. You hear like a muffly noise.
All right, note to self. We have to check that out.
Because that would be interesting if we saw that scene first and now we're seeing it again.
Maybe.
Weird, huh?
It's an echo, or I don't know.
But yeah, if they would knock on that door, that little boy would answer, and they would see the woman, and that's why I feel like they're squatting, and everything's boarded up, and I just feel like it's a complex where a bunch of people lost money. They foreclosed homes, and nobody lives there anymore.
Maybe they all invested in this estate, this housing area, and it didn't bring
belly
up. Yeah. So Dougie goes and sees his son, which I thought was a fun, comical little piece.
Yeah.
And
he did say daddy. He did say dad.
I know, because, so that was nice. He finally talks, the kid. And, Kyle MacLachlan, or Dougie Cooper, is eating chips. And Kyle MacLachlan actually did a Ruffles potato chip commercial back in the day.
I saw you posted that.
I did post that, yes. That was funny.
Awesome.
So it made me think of that. It's like, it's potato chips.
So check out that ad. It's on YouTube, right? You posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out.
But, and like he's not Agent Cooper, but he definitely comes off a little bit like Agent Cooper there. Like he says things about peaks and I don't know, darn good crisps or something like that. So there's definitely wording that's very Cooper-ish.
Yes, Cooper-ish. Yeah.
So like we get these case files that he's in the Cooper, Dougie's in the house. And I remember thinking to myself, how is he going to do these case files? Like, he's not even, like, coherent. He's kind of out of it, and his boss gives him these case files. And there's light that is on these case files that seems to either A, it's helping him figure out what he has to do, or his mind is actually trying to actually put it together. I feel like it's the black, or not the black.
Yeah, I feel like you're right on. Like, okay, so we saw him call out a liar. We saw him.
This is last week, right?
Yeah, we figure out how he can win. The lucky 7.
But I mean, and the real Cooper was very good at deductive. I mean, like he was good at figuring things out.
His intuition was strong.
Yeah,
he was a strong sender.
So we have one-armed man who's trying to say, hey, it's funny, every episode title is a quote from the episode. So it's the whole idea, don't die, wake up. And I'm excited because I think all the audience were like, we want Cooper to wake up.
Yeah.
So he's saying, you got to wake up or you're going to die.
Yeah.
And then we get this whole light that is helping him draw the case files.
Yeah, he saw stairs and a ladder.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like this is saying that some of these people are getting insurance fraud. Like someone jumped off something. Like they went up a ladder, or they fell down stairs, or they're lying, or I was trying to make heads or tails about anything.
I don't understand Cooper's scribbles. And at first his boss doesn't understand his scribbles either. But he eventually sees he's circling St. Clair, which is the guy who is the agent. Is the insurance agent that's being called a liar.
Yeah.
And so he's circling that, and he's circling other things, and his boss does put it together and says, hey, keep this to yourself. But to me, so here's what I'm really thinking about this. To me, this is Mark Frost and David Lynch saying, hey, I know there's a lot of things going on in this series, and it looks like nothing, and it looks like a mess, but eventually it's all going to come together, and it's all going to make sense. And I feel like that's kind of a representation. That's the case files. That eventually, and I think we are seeing it. We're getting more Twin Peaks, the town, and we're kind of getting.
Yeah, your theory. Each episode, we're getting more and more of the Twin Peaks. In this episode, I felt like it was the fan. It was giving us what we wanted. The payoff has been good on this one when it comes to like bringing back those memories of Fire Walk with Me and the original series.
Yeah. And so I still want I want Cooper sooner, but my theory still, or my feeling still, is going to be we're going to have to wait 2 more episodes before we get Cooper back.
Yeah.
And that will bring us to the halfway point of the series. And guess what? There's going to be a week break. Like right before 4th of July, they're taking a week off.
Yeah.
And my theory is we see the new Cooper returns right before then. We get that week off, and then the last half of the series is going to be Cooper back into solving mysteries and stuff.
You know what? I have a weird thing. I have a weird theory.
Oh boy! Don't say that it's going to be Dougie for the whole series. Please don't say that.
I don't know. I want to think you're right. Like, a part of me is like, that sounds great, but the way how slow paces is moving, I almost feel like we're not going to get Cooper back until maybe the last couple episodes.
No way. Don't even say it. I think Kyle MacLachlan is doing a fabulous job. He does that
So do I.
I mean, there's a scene where he's going into the back into his office and the elevator's closing in on him, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Where he kind of like goes in, and he almost seems to be the character seems to be enjoying the fact that the elevator almost closes in on him.
He is playing. That was me realizing he's having fun here. He knows something. He's a child. He's like a kid. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, that's what I always loved about the real Cooper, Dale Cooper, is that he was a little bit childish. Like he was really clever and he was good at his job, but at the same time he enjoyed it, and the little things in life made him happy, like ducks on the lake, or
or making the elevator doors open and close, and then close on him, which was really funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
But I swear, there's too much. I feel like we've seen it with one of our man saying, "You got to wake up." I think we're at a point now where we're very, very, very close to him waking up. I really do. And I think,
can we break that down?
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Well, like when he says, "Don't die." Okay, later on we learn about Ike the Spike. And I'm thinking,
actor.
And I'm thinking, well, Ike, he's a hitman. He's killed Lorraine, and
Lorraine was the one who was giving the message. And maybe I bring it up now. I was saying urgent, and a lot of people have said it was not urgent.
I thought it was urgent too.
Urgent is with a U, not an A, and so maybe it was Argent. And like Argentina, possibly. Thank you, everybody. There's a lot of people that gave feedback about that. And,
yeah.
But right, so she gets killed off by
the hitman by Ike, and Dougie is the other person. Now I am here. At first, when the one-armed man says, "Don't die," I'm like, oh boy, so Dougie's in trouble. Something's going to happen. And then I see this hitman, and Dougie is one of the people that he needs to kill, because I think Lorraine isn't doing the job. So someone else got hired saying, listen, if Lorraine can't do it, she knows too much. She needs to go.
Right.
Dougie still needs to go.
Yep.
And this guy was brutal. But what if the don't die... Here, I struggle with this because we always talk about the dreams, and he was manufactured, and I mean all these theories. What if this is all in Dougie's head? What if Cooper, or maybe what if Dougie's in a coma and Cooper's in his body? But that makes no sense to me. But
sometimes we overthink it.
Yeah, you overthink it. But don't die. It's scary because it's like, don't die. It's like, but Dougie doesn't know there's like the Spike coming after.
Well, to me, it's like the fate of the world is like, if you die, then Mr. C, Bob, wins.
Yes.
I mean, they get to stay forever, in the real world. And so that's what we're up against. We're up against,
We're up against Ike the Spike now.
You want to talk about Albert's storyline?
Yeah,
Probably one of the highlights of the episode.
Yeah, I got a lot of feelings about this. So
we'll shortly.
Yeah.
It starts off with Albert in the car, and it's raining, and he's talking to Cole, and Cole seems to be having a good old time. He's drinking and just like, this is very important. Now I'm gonna have my drink, and then he gets out of the car, and you actually told me, I didn't realize who said this at first, but it says, "Fuck you, Gene Kelly, motherfucker."
Yeah.
And that was Albert.
It's Albert.
I don't know
yeah.
why. First, I was like, is there some random guy yelling out in the street?
No, because he stepped in a puddle
He stepped
and
in
it's
a pu-
pouring
Right.
rain.
And of course, it's Singing in the Rain. It's a musical. And like, I'm aware of at least 2 musicals in this references in this episode, and we'll get to the other one. But Singing in the Rain, I feel like there's got to be 3. Like, I don't know. To me, you do things in 3s, but I'm aware of 2 musicals, and this is the first of the musicals, Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great reference.
And I've never seen I don't think I've ever seen Singing in the Rain, but I do believe one of the acts is called "Fuck Gene Kelly, You Motherfucker." I think that was one of the biggest.
Oh, that was in the musical? That was. What are you talking about?
That was one of the closing acts.
I don't think so.
I know it wasn't, but it was It was hilarious when he said that.
Yes, and then he gets into this bar, and we know where he's going to see. He's going to see the person who can identify if that's the real Cooper or not, Mr. C. There.
Yeah, he was in the Max Von bar.
And do you have any information about that?
No, I just know it's the Max Von bar.
All right, I feel like this has something to do with. I don't. It's a reference of another film, and I'm drawing a blank right now.
Oh, that's fine. Maybe next week we can bring it up. Or someone could email us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. Now, we had 2 theories. At first, it was like, oh, it could be Audrey, but it makes no sense. Audrey's going to get the key, I think.
I always had one theory.
Diane.
Diane. Not only Diane, but Diane Evans.
Diane Evans.
First time we've ever got her last name that I'm aware of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It wasn't in the Cooper book. It was never mentioned in the series or, I believe, in the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
who plays Diane?
Everybody knew Laura Dern.
Yeah, I think we've been calling it forever. I think that's what the fans wanted. It makes, to me, perfect sense because I think Kyle and Laura have such perfect chemistry. Even though I know they just did Blue Velvet, but there's something about their performance. They're just amazing together.
We don't even know if they're going to be on the same screen together.
Well, I gotta guess at least Mr. C and Diane will get to at least interact.
Maybe. I'd rather see Cooper and Diane.
I would too, but I'll get what I get.
Yeah. The blonde hair threw me off. I'm like, who is this gonna be? And Laura Dern as Diane was awesome though.
Do you think it's gonna be is that her real hair or is she in like some kind of disguise or?
You were talking about this. She's a businesswoman, and maybe.
She works for the FBI, or she did work for the FBI.
Afterwards, that blonde hair could definitely be a wig. It could be like, I don't want people to know who I am out in the real world, because my job is dangerous. I know a lot of information, and if someone would ever figure out who I am and what I know, I could be gone. So maybe she does dress up and go out and pretend to be someone else.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But I was very excited. That was, something. It's funny. I think if you asked me 25 years ago, I'd never want to have seen Diane.
I know. I still am on the fence about it. But
now does this ruin your theory that he just talks to himself?
Yeah, it does. It still doesn't explain how he got those earbuds so quickly. They didn't have Amazon Prime back then. And to mail it from Philadelphia to Seattle,
right,
to Washington,
television,
pretty quick.
The magical
television.
television.
But no, as much as I didn't want to see Diane, and it happened, and I'm just going to allow. This is it. I'm going to see Diane. This is great. I can't say I'm mad about this, but I do like that little mystery of not knowing what she looked like. But it's fine. It's cool. I think it made it awesome, but I wanted more. That's
what this show does. They give you little taste buds and taste of it, and then you have to tune in maybe 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks, 3.
Yeah, 3. So it was Joel Bacco, I think, that mentioned on Twitter that in Sunset Boulevard film, which is David Lynch, one of David Lynch's favorite films, there is a character that goes by Max Vaughn.
Oh.
Mayerling. So probably that's where the bar came from.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Max von Bar.
So you want to talk about the Richard Horn storyline?
Yes, Richard Horn meeting this slightly new character, Red. We once saw Red in episode 1.
Yes,
or part 1.
Right, when he was at the bar.
Giving Shelley the old fingers.
Right. What I love
the
is
finger
that
guns.
he actually gives the fingers again to Richard and stuff like that. But this is not playful. This is kind of scary. Like, do you want to mess with this guy?
Yeah, he is
pretty weird guy.
Creepy. You know, he looked like Charlie Sheen. I thought he was like he's what Charlie Sheen thinks he looks like.
He's winning.
He's winning. He's got the dragon blood in him or whatever. But yeah, Red is an interesting guy, and so he's this person who's using Twin Peaks to funnel drugs.
Yes, he's the big guy.
He's the drug guy.
Yes,
because it's a small town. As Richard Horn said, you know, the sheriff is like 90 years old. Right. Nobody knows what's going on. You can get away with a lot here.
It's funny because we see the sheriff station has like they have a lot of great equipment and they have a lot of people, and you think that they're know what's going on.
They're still a small town though.
Yeah, they still are.
Yeah, I mean they're not. They're worried about other things like leaky pipes, you know. So.
Yeah, it's interesting that like Red knows what's going on, and I think Richard was shocked. He's like, "Oh, you know about that place?" And he's like, "I've been here for a few weeks, and I've been checking out the area."
He's scoping it out.
And yeah, and so I thought about this. It's like, I bet you Shelley and Red have never really met.
No,
I bet it's one of those things where like, hey, Red hangs out in the bar, and Shelley sees him, and they kind of wink and flirt a little bit, but I don't think they're together.
Or no, I don't. Oh, sorry. I don't think they're together either. But I almost feel like maybe he could definitely pretend to be the sweet, nice guy.
Yes.
And fool her.
It's like Shelley's perfect guy.
I mean,
the guy that she always picks is the guy that the red Corvette and seems like a great guy, and then realizes he's a jerk.
Yeah, and I mean he could pull off, I believe, this whole charming act.
Yeah. So there's so much going on here. At one point he says, "The King and I." What do you think that's all about? He says I don't know if he says I like it, but like The King and I. Yeah. That's a musical. Do you know anything about anything more? How does it relate to Twin Peaks in the past?
I don't know. You tell me.
We're going back Twin Peaks old school.
All right.
Here we go.
Haven't you noticed? Suddenly I'm bright and breezy because of all the beautiful and new things I am learning about you day by day. Great Northern audiences are the greatest audiences in the world. Thank you. Good night. Drive carefully.
The King and I.
Getting to know you. And that seems to be what Red is saying. Red is saying, I don't really know you, but I'm going to get to know you. Like, he seems like somebody who he kind of feels out the area and he really wants to know it. But I thought it was interesting that, like, just the term The King and I, it's like, what is he talking about, The King and I? And then so I think I was looking up The King and I, and then I realized, the song "Getting to Know You" is what Leland sang. And
man, see, this is what I love about the Return of Twin Peaks. It's all these subtle these subtle nods and winks to the original series.
Yes.
And Fire Walk with Me. Some are blatant, some are that is just so.
And to me,
small.
If Mark Frost and David Lynch did not rewatch the series, they have a great memory. I think it is maybe BS because I feel like to me is a reference to the original series. That is like, I really do think that like
they must have watched key episodes or they had the scripts.
Maybe they had the scripts. Maybe that's what
they don't have.
Maybe that's how they got around this. Like, we didn't watch it, but we did have the scripts to rewatch.
I mean, Ben, you know as well as I, on a computer, you can search a word, find it on a script. They could easily have looked over the scripts and said, okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's great.
But I thought that was a great nod. It was such a cool nod.
Good find, Ben.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
I found this on my own. I have not seen anybody else on social media come up with this. Maybe it's out there, but
it's so hard.
I haven't listened to the I think we've talked about this. I've been staying away from Twin Peaks podcast until after we recorded.
Me too.
So I don't know if anybody on other shows have mentioned this, but it's such an obscure thing because you say The King and I, and it's like, what is he talking about, The King and I?
Yeah,
and then he says, I like it, and it's like, what does that mean? And then just to remember, getting to know you is from that. And that definitely seems to be a reference from the original series. And then he does say, at some point, he says, we don't know each other, Richard, yet, but I'm going to get to know you. And it's like, so he is mentioning getting to know you.
Getting to know you. That's awesome. That's an awesome
So
find.
he is one scary guy, though. Like, is like, he's waving, he's like doing some
He's
kung
doing the
fu.
Charlie Sheen waves and kicks and punches. And then the coin. What do you think about the coin magic trick?
Well, some people are referring it to the grandson and magic tricks. I don't.
Me
I
too,
find it's a
but
stretch for me. I don't know what to. I mean, it's a magic
cream
trick.
corn didn't show up in his hands.
Yes.
So, but that coin was floating up there forever. Because at first, like, is it slow motion? And no, he's looking up there, and then all of a sudden, it's like in his mouth.
But there's two of them. There's one in his mouth, and then he has one in his hand. I
But
believe.
it disappears.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So it was one. I'll tell you what I really thought happened.
Yeah.
When he pulls it out of his mouth, I thought, this is what I thought as it was happening, that there was going to be blood on the coin, and it went straight through his head.
What are you thinking this stuff?
I thought the coin
Oh my gosh.
flew in the air and just went right through his skull
Oh come on.
and killed him. And I
man.
thought, I'm like, are they going to kill Richard? Oh, wait.
No, he's too much of a badass. We need Richard here.
You know, Richard is a whiny... You know what? I'm going to say, he's a little whiny bitch.
Oh my gosh, Bryon went there.
No, he is.
He's a jerk though. He was like,
He came off as this suave in the beginning. Then he was such an asshole to those girls.
yes.
And now Red is the badass. I think Red is the ultimate badass in Twin Peaks right now. I think Richard's a pawn in his little scheme, and I think Richard's he is a
Is Richard like Bobby, and then like Red is like Leo or something like that? Or something
Red
like
seems calm and cool and collect, but he really pushed Richard's buttons, calling him kid and really talking down to him.
Right.
And that's what gets him into the truck and start driving like an asshole because he's trying to, I feel like he has
got into
something
his
to
head.
prove.
He got into his head.
Yeah. And with the whole girl thing, I think he has a lot of issues and he wants to prove something and he doesn't know how to, so he acts out. And then when he treats those girls like crap, he just comes off as a jerk. And
He
now,
is a jerk.
now Red is like, you're a kid, you're immature, you don't know what you're doing. And he's like, oh, I'll show you. He's just I think he's just a pawn. I think Richard's just a punk.
Yes.
You know, he's just like a punk kid. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Clearly.
True.
He gets himself in some trouble.
Yes, and so we get to see Carl Rode. Good old the guy who runs the Fat Trout Trailer Park.
The new.
That's right.
The new.
The new. That sign doesn't just say the park. It also says the word new.
New.
And so I think he moved away from Deer Meadows and moved into Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Where, if you look at the secret history of Twin Peaks, is where he's from. So he's originally from Twin Peaks, and he decided to move back.
Yeah, and you know, we honestly, he's getting a ride into town, so you could still be in the outskirts somewhere.
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, you know, both of us where we live, there, I don't know what you call this, but it's like there's other towns. Like, I live near Northampton, and there's a Florence, you know what I mean? But Florence is kind of considered part of Northampton. But
Yes, exactly. This is what I was thinking, because I live in Enfield, Connecticut, and Enfield is a town, but there's subsets.
Yes.
You have Shaker Pines, Green Manor,
Right.
Broadbrook, Thompsonville.
yes.
Is the Deer Meadow kind of like a subset of
I feel
the
like Deer
Twin
Meadows
Peaks?
is too far away, though. I think if we looked at Fire and Walk with Me and we looked at the book, I think it would be too far away. I don't think it was as close. And I think, Cooper...
He was getting a ride into town, though.
Yeah.
We don't know how long he was in the car. I don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like he's just moved to Twin Peaks. I feel like we're no longer near Deer Meadows anymore. That's
Well,
my
we
feeling.
saw so he's at a park and he's just drinking coffee and just enjoying the day.
Yep. Coffee from the Double R.
Yeah, and mom and this kid are playing.
Yeah, they're kind of playing chase. Like,
yeah.
the little boy will go a little, like, a few feet, and then she'll chase after him. And it's cute, and he's enjoying it. It's kind of like just really relaxing, taking it on, and just like watching the child.
And
the
in
parent.
Lynch fashion, this is the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
He does this a lot.
He does.
He brings you in and makes you feel secure, and he makes you feel all warm inside.
Yes.
And then, like a blink of the eye, life is chaos. It scares you.
Yep.
And this is that scene. This is what it does. They're at the same
intersection as in Firewalk with Me. Right.
Yes.
So where Laura and Leland are in the car together, and Mike, the one-armed man, he basically runs them off the road.
Yeah. Well,
so it's interesting. He runs them off the road, and at the same time, through this crossway, there's an old man. And I think it might be his daughter, are actually crossing the street in the same intersection of the same crosswalk that the mother and the son are gonna be in.
Yeah.
And Mike drives right around the four-way and almost runs them over, and then comes back to where it's face to face with Leland, and they have a whole big exchange. But it is funny to have the same four-way be in this scene that we're watching now here with the mom and son.
Yeah, and it's very odd. I mean, everybody stopped. The guy says to the mom, "Yeah, it's okay. You can go." And the kid runs out there.
Right. The guy in the car. Is
And
like they're at a stop. Well, they're at a stop sign. They're at a stop sign, and there's all these cars behind them. Mm-hmm. And Richard isn't happy about waiting, and he gets out of his lane.
He's tweaked out. He's pissed off, and he just guns it.
I didn't mention. I think the name of the drug is Sparkle.
Oh, he's on Sparkle.
Oh, he's on Sparkle.
All right, Sparkle.
Yeah.
Sparkle and 21. That's the new podcast.
That's a new drug of choice.
Sparkle.
Sparkle.
Yeah, I mean, that was a brutal scene. Like,
so he guns
doesn't
it
stop at all.
And the mom plays some more and says, "Oh, you can run along and I'll chase after you." But the son goes ahead and he gets run over. And
it was brutal.
Richard does not stop. He just keeps on going. Just runs him down.
Yeah, he's an ass.
And he's like, it's funny. He's blaming the kid too. He's like, "I told you to get out of the way."
Because he's high on Sparkle. Now, I think Richard's going to die because of this. He deserves to die.
He deserves to die, huh?
I think something's going to happen to him.
Oh,
he's
man.
going to get shot. He is going to screw over Red somehow, or prove to Red that he is not a kid, and it's going to get him some trouble, and he's going to get killed.
Man.
That's what I think.
Carl Rode actually comes to the intersection, sees the mother in agony. I mean, she does a amazing performance by the mother. And, as a parent, I'm a parent of 3 children. I think that's sometimes your worst nightmare is to think that, cars running over your kids. Where I live, you have a street, but it's not like a very busy street.
Yeah.
But you still always like, oh, are my kids okay? Even when I go in a parking lot, I kind of get worried about like crazy people driving and stuff.
They're not paying attention. Yeah.
And so that's like your worst thing, to think that like out of your control that a car will come and hit your child. And it's like, oh, devastating. And you have Carl there. It's funny. I mean, people are very emotional. They're standing there and they're in shock. But it's Carl who actually walks over and looks her face to face. I don't know if they know each other or not, but he cares enough to like be there with her. And what happens as he's going over to?
Well, he sees a glowing gold soul.
Yeah, I believe it's I want to say it's the child's soul. It's the spirit, right?
But he saw it.
Yeah.
He saw, this is very odd.
Yeah, I think I've always sensed that Carl was somebody special. Like even in Firewalk with Me, he says, I've been places. I always thought that like there was something special about him. And he had that electric pole.
The electric pole from
number 6.
Yes, because you had 6 and 7, and they showed the 6. And in Firewalk with Me, it was like the 2.
Yes.
And now we saw 6. And you hear the electricity and everything.
And I think you might even hear the whooping sound.
Yes.
Yes.
So does that mean this soul's going to the lodge?
One of them, maybe. I mean, I sometimes always wonder if the lodges are like heaven and hell. Like, does everybody end up there? Does everybody end up in the light lodges? I don't know.
Well, if Hawk does describe there's a white lodge and a black lodge, and it's that very well could be. We don't know. It was odd. This all was very odd. I don't know what to make out of it.
It didn't bother me.
Now.
I thought it felt very normal. It was very. It felt very Twin Peakish. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was.
No, but I mean, what is it
something
for Carl? I mean, what is this? What does this mean? Yeah.
I mean, he's a witness. I mean, so if you look at the secret history of Twin Peaks, he was abducted and he had a whole storyline, and then so you do wonder if he's experienced supernatural stuff in the past. If we're using secret history of Twin Peaks as canon.
It is weird when I see 6. In 7, I always, because of the Pixie song, I always think is 6 is hell and 7 is heaven. But it's odd, you know. And it's
I don't know where I've heard this, but I always heard 6 was that you're not whole and 7 is like I don't know what it is. I've always heard
well, that
7
would go
as a good
around with
number.
7 would be heaven, and
Yeah.
6 would be hell, and so yeah, I don't know. It's very weird, very weird.
And maybe this happened before this, but we had the double R scene where we have Shelley and Heidi comes back.
Yes.
Heidi's a little older.
A little older, but she still giggles
Yes.
like constantly. Everything she's giggling at. And it would be really awesome to have her on the show sometime and just have her giggle for 20 minutes.
There you go. That'd be wonderful. And there's this woman who I guess she eats pie there all the time, and she's a favorite. But Shelley says, best pie customer ever. And I'm like, what about Cooper? Cooper will eat 2 whole pies.
But he hasn't been around for 25 years.
I know, but if you're saying ever, that would include 25 years ago with Cooper eating.
Nah,
That's all I can think of.
know.
Is like, how dare you, Shelley, say that she's the best customer for pie?
Yeah, Shelley. Come
Shelley,
on.
come on.
Cooper.
So that was a sweet little scene.
Yes.
But that actually goes into, so the customer then leaves, and I think she's probably right outside Double R, and she sees Richard drive off.
Yes.
So in some ways, she's probably the only one that witnessed who was the driver.
You're right. And this could come into play later on because Richard pulls over and he wipes the blood off of the grill of his Ford.
Yeah,
and the Ford's not going anywhere. Like, it kind of stalls or maybe runs out of gas or
I don't know
something.
what he's doing with it now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He's also high on Sparkle, so I don't even think he knows what he's doing. So, yeah, you're right. Maybe it'll come into play that the boy was hit by a truck. That woman saw this all could be little morsels of something bigger down the line. Definitely. Richard getting into trouble and being shot and killed because I think that's what's going to happen to him.
We'll see. So I had something else. So the actress who plays the mom of the child that dies. So I don't know if I ever shared this on the show, but I really thought she was going to turn out to be Donna. And maybe she could still be, but I don't know why. She looks more like Donna from Fire Walk with Me to me.
I don't think we needed Donna so far.
Are we back at that again? We don't need Donna?
We don't need Donna. Donna has played her part.
But here's the thing. We know that Warren Frost, Doc Hayward is in it. We know that at least I think both sisters are in it. So why wouldn't Donna be in it?
You're right. I mean, maybe we're going to get a new Donna at some point.
I was waiting for Carl and her to look at each other and then Carl to say, "Are you okay, Donna?" And then, now this is my own fan fiction here.
Oh my God. And they kiss afterwards?
No, that's how I'm going. I was waiting for somebody to basically say
Gotcha.
Donna.
Donna, yeah.
And maybe
I think it was just like a mom. I think
it
it was
probably
just
was a random mom.
Yeah.
But it could still happen next week that we could
It
find
didn't
out.
say in the credits.
But that's what they're waiting for next week.
Maybe you're right, Ben. I mean,
I
this
don't
is a theory. It all could tie in.
Yes.
It could all tie in. You know what? In Lynchian fashion, everything and nothing is up for anything.
Right.
You know, we don't know. Everything we say today will totally be wrong tomorrow.
Yeah. And I still think about the scene from Fire Walk with Me with Leland and Laura, and they get into like a garage area, and Leland's freaking out and say, "Oh, that crazy man who just drove by, and he bothered my daughter and blah blah blah." And
Yeah.
it's just funny. You think One-Armed Man was crazy and disturbed. You have this guy Richard who actually just killed somebody.
I know.
But it's funny that this is happening in the same 25 years later. This is the same intersection that these things are happening.
Yeah. Very, very weird.
Very odd.
Very odd stuff is happening.
Coincidence. I can't make anything more of it than that, but it's just funny that this is the same space that these things happen.
There's got to be a reason. Maybe.
Probably.
There could be a reason for all this. Shall we get into one of the most poignant part of the show, Hawk?
Yes, let's get into them.
Now, Andy, a couple episodes before, says, "I'm not finding anything Indian related in here, Hawk."
Right, so something is missing, and it's related to Cooper's case.
And Margaret, the log lady, says it has something to do with your heritage.
Yes.
Well, so Hawk goes to the bathroom, and I believe he has a coin, or he takes something out of his pocket. It's a coin. It has a Native American head on it.
I'm sure I should know what this is. Is it an Indian nickel or some kind of? I thought there's an actual terminology for it. But
Yeah, and it falls, and it goes under the stall. So he goes to pick it up, and he is sort of like having an epiphany as he's doing it. And he turns around, and on the bottom of the door is an I don't remember exactly what it said, but
it's like Native American Productions, or it's something related to
his heritage.
His heritage, Native American.
Yes.
They make these stalls.
Yes. Yeah. So then he looks at the door, and the door looks like it's been tampered with, like it's been ripped and then put back, and he just has this Cooper-like intuition to rip the door off.
I love that Chad comes by and it's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, freaking Chad. Nobody likes Chad.
No, but it's just like
Chad's dick.
Yeah, he really is.
We'll learn later on that Chad's dick.
There's a lot of dicks on this show. I mean, we're getting a lot of bad guys.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bad guy in the sheriff's station. There's a bad guy in here. And...
You know, in Twin Peaks fashion, nothing is what it seems, and there's a lot of assholes everywhere, I guess. But ripping this door off was just like, he was just certain something was in there. He's just like, and you know, it's interesting because the door looked like it was tampered with. Because if you look at the other doors, they look perfectly sealed and painted over. Where this door literally had the corner looked like it was pulled up and someone pushed it together. So he had this feeling that he's got to open it.
Yeah.
And what does he find? He finds a piece of paper.
Right.
It's Laura's diary, missing pages.
Probably, right?
People now on Reddit and other social media have blown up the photo of him holding the pieces of paper, and in the margin it says Annie.
I saw that.
And now Annie in Fire Walk with Me, she shows up and says, "Write this in your diary."
Right, in Laura's bed, she just appears in the same clothing she was in from the episode 29.
Yeah,
she
same.
says, Cooper is stuck in the lodge. Write it up in your diary.
So if these are the missing pages, how did they get there? That's the mystery. Because wouldn't the only other person who knew about these pages would have been what's his face that killed himself? I can't think of his name now.
Oh, yeah, Harold.
Harold.
Sure. Well, on Twitter, Twin Peaky87 mentions that Philip Gerard, he went to the bathroom stall. Like, without chemicals, he points. So it seems like he could have been in the same stall. Is it possible that he could have had those pages and put it in there? I don't know. I mean, it could be a stretch.
Well,
or just the fact that the fact that he's...
Okay. At that point, Laura's dead. Other things have happened.
No. Yeah, but we still have...
What if those pages were in there already?
Oh, yeah. So I guess the other thing is, could Laura Palmer have put them in there herself? Because here's the thing is that...
Anything's possible.
In Firewalker with Me, here's the funniest thing. She already has given her diary to Harold at this point. And she doesn't have that dream or whatever you want to call with Annie till after she's already given her diary. So how is she going to write it in her diary unless she writes it in her fake diary?
But we know she doesn't write in the fake diary because Cooper would have saw that.
Yeah, because he did. They got that one.
Yeah.
Unless it was ripped out or something like that. So could she have written it down on paper and then?
Good point. I'm thinking the pages could have been in there before.
And here's the thing: is we still don't know for sure, but I mean, it does look like it was blown up. And I saw Annie as well.
Oh, Annie or something.
But
said Annie.
It still makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And here, we've been waiting forever to say, are we going to find out what happened to Annie? Is Annie going to be a part of this? And it would be exciting to know that maybe she will in some way.
My name is Annie. I've been with Dale and Laura. The good Dale is in the lodge, and he can't leave. Write it in your diary.
The small stuff, Ben. I mean, the small little things this episode gave us. We got to see the stoplight Sparkwood in 21.
Yeah, that was a nice little touch.
And did you notice the volume? It was like weird noises and stuff underneath it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I thought there was a lot more music in there, and I know
atmosphere.
You brought atmosphere.
Yeah.
But more sound, more music, and I feel like we were talking about as we get closer to Twin Peaks, we're getting a lot more of that.
It's seeping in. It's creeping in, and I think we're getting more and more. And I think you're right. I think by the end of this show, the last couple episodes could just be purely in the town. It all comes back to Twin Peaks.
Yes.
It's the Force.
Right. The
you know,
return
the
to
return
Twin Peaks.
It's magnetic.
Yes.
Everything goes back.
So when we go back to Sheriff Station, there's Chad, who's kind of like, he's like, I wouldn't be with Truman's wife. Like, why is he even hanging out with her? And then there was another woman that's
She's
a cop.
busting his balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a woman police officer who's saying, he's like, don't you know his story that like they had a son who was in war? This is interesting too. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mention something else. So there's another thing where we learn about a Linda. There was a guy who was riding with Carl, and he mentions Linda. And as you remember, the giant, not the giant, mentions Richard and Linda. And like that's some kind of clue about them. Remember Richard and Linda. And so we have a Linda now that was in a war, and the government finally got her a wheelchair. But we don't know much more about that than that. But it's interesting. So we have a Linda, and we already have a Richard Horn. So there's Richard and Linda. But then we go back to Truman and his wife. They had a son who was in war, and he committed suicide.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm sure through the stress and everything like that. But you have Chad who's laughing and making fun of them. It's like, oh.
Yeah, he couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, it's like, so he really is a jerk. I mean, so you're getting these jerks everywhere. And
Yes. Yeah. So we learned that Chad is a dick.
And I think we already knew that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we knew that through the interaction between Andy and Lucy. And then when he seems like he's hanging out with Richard Horn, and it seems to be drug related.
Yeah, he is a bad cop. I mean, he is definitely using the system. He's using Bobby's camera system.
Probably, right?
He's
Probably to work, yeah.
manipulating it or going, hey, I know where the cameras are, guys. We go somewhere else.
Right.
So he's the inside guy who's kind of messing things up for the sheriff's department. But that is part 6, man. I can't wait for part 7. I can't believe we're already 7 parts deep into this.
Well, for me, my month has been made just seeing Diane, knowing that's Laura Dern. I was very happy, very satisfied with that.
What could top that in the next episode?
What could have we
next
could get
part.
Cooper back.
That's not going to happen next episode.
Again, I've said Kyle is doing an amazing job of performance. There's parts where I laugh and I think it's funny, but there's other parts that's like, come on, give me Cooper, give me the real Cooper.
You know, I think we have now in the storyline hit another day because we actually saw him work a full day, go home, and now it's a new day. So I feel like now that a day has passed or two, those keys have reached the Great Northern, maybe.
Yes,
or
let's hope
close
so.
to it,
right?
And we might be seeing Audrey.
That's our theory, right? Our theory is Audrey is going to get the key, and she's going to know that was Cooper's room.
Because she's the one that snuck in.
Yes. I'm hoping.
Gotta be.
I would like that.
She'd be the only one, and she works for the Great Northern. We know she still works there.
We got to believe that.
We
right?
gotta believe it. Yeah. She's still poking holes in coffee cups.
And
I think she's working there, and she's got young people doing the same things that she was doing to her.
Probably. And have we talked much about it? Is Richard her son?
You know,
some people say Jerry. Some people, it could actually even be Ben. I think I'm leaning towards that's Audrey's son. I mean, it's unfortunate that she'd have such a bad son.
You know what, though? I don't... Here's a theory. It could be... The theory is Audrey and Mr. C... Mr. C...
No, don't go in this direction. No!
This is the theory people think online.
I don't believe it.
Mr. C came back into town one last time to see Major Briggs. Since he knew that Audrey had a thing for him, he took advantage of the situation.
Come on.
He did a hit and run, left town. She had a bad seed.
You didn't go there, did you?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I don't believe that theory. You know why? I believe Ben Horn, well, you know, in the original series, he had kids.
Yep, he had Donna.
He had Donna. So what's there to say?
But you know, he
around...
respects women now.
Yes, but for the beforehand, he didn't. What's there to say he didn't have another love child with someone else?
Sure, it's possible.
Definitely possible.
Yep.
I don't want to believe it's Audrey's.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of like a bait and switch. They're leading us to believe it could be with the smoking and the way he was introduced, but I feel like it's gonna be someone else.
But sometimes if it quacks and walks like a duck, it's a duck.
I don't know. Not in
I
Twin
wanna see.
Peaks. Not in Twin
So
Peaks.
yeah, the highlights for me for this episode were definitely seeing Donna, and then just that moving thing of the mother and child, and seeing the loss of a child. It's like, it's heart wrenching. It's troubling. It's something that doesn't leave me. I'm still thinking about it a lot.
Yeah, and it was a brutal scene.
It was yeah.
And like I said, they brought us into a false sense of security with Carl watching them in the park.
And have fun,
And David Lynch is known to do that a lot now.
Right.
I mean, and especially this season alone, this is the second time he's done it. So every time I feel a false sense of security, I get scared. Something bad's gonna happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we go, we do have. I posted right after the episode. I posted a photograph on our Facebook page. We're on Twin Peaks Unwrapped on Facebook, and man, the comments were awesome. I mean, theories abound, and just great conversation everyone's having, and I love it. I love it. We're going to continue this every week. But I did want to read one. Last week I didn't get a chance to, so this week I'm going to. Someone wrote, is the White Lodge helping Good Cooper correct the evil Dougie, the evils Dougie did in the world? So, like, Dougie, we would have to presume would be, he's fooling around his wife with a prostitute. He could have been part of this whole, his insurance schemes going so he can make more money or whatever. He's gambling. Now, is this the White Lodge helping Cooper correct Dougie's wrongs?
Yeah, I think it's more like the White Lodge is just helping Cooper because Mr. C cheated the system. Like, his time was 25 years are up, and you have to come back to the Black Lodge. And he's manipulating things by manufacturing Dougie, and he's playing the whole thing. And now they're like, okay, if you're going to cheat the system, we're going to cheat the system, and we're going to help out Cooper to make things right. And to me, that makes more sense. But I mean, it's a cool theory.
Yeah. Also, we did mention this. So in the original Twin Peaks, Andy is the one that figures out the map. And nobody would listen to him.
Right.
Hey, guys.
It's a map.
It's a map. And they wrote, Andy did solve the mystery indirectly by priming Hawk to look for Indians. And yet again, Andy is the idiot savant.
I mean, I think, but it wasn't obvious you're saying your heritage. I mean,
well, Margaret did. I mean, the log lady really said your heritage. But Andy was like, I can't find anything about Indians. Here is the biggie. Does Carl's appearance in this episode disprove the theory that the opening sequence in Firewalk with Me are actually Cooper's dream? Seems to me Carl is part of the real Twin Peaks world.
I'm gonna play John Thorne.
Okay.
John Thorne did say that everything that happened in those half hour did happen in Firewalk with Me. Cooper was the one that went to the park and met Carl, and Cooper is the one that did the investigation, and it was in his dream that he reimagined everything
as someone else.
As Chet Desmond. So if John was here, I'm sure John would say everything did happen. It happened with Cooper in there. And what really happened is Kyle MacLachlan was supposed to be in the whole movie, and so the original part was going to be Kyle doing the investigation, and then Kyle was like, I don't want to do it, and so they had to recast it, and then he said, okay, I will do it for a certain amount of time and stuff.
I think you answered that perfectly.
Yeah.
So Luke, there's the answer to that one.
I mean, I'm sure we can still make arguments back and forth why yes and no, but I think John would still say, hey, it's all happened, but it happened with Cooper investigation.
That's very true.
He struggled with trying to figure out the mystery, and so he kept on dreaming, trying to figure it out in his head. He couldn't let it go. He wrestled with why he couldn't solve this case.
And some are saying this whole Dougie stuff is like a dream or maybe a coma or something's happening where it's all happening in the mind, and it's actually Cooper trying to get out of this, and the one-armed man could be saying, don't die, because if you're in a coma and you don't get out of it, you'll die. Yeah. And maybe he's on a table and they'll pull the plug if he doesn't get out of this coma. But that theory for me gets thrown out of the water because of the key. Jade has the key that was in her car, and when the guy says, John must have left this in your car, she goes, oh, Dougie. She didn't say, oh, Doug Dougie who's in a coma. It was said like, oh, Dougie.
Yeah.
You know, so it's so hard. I love that theory that that Dougie could be in a coma or Cooper could be in a coma, and this is him trying to get out.
Yeah.
But I don't want to
overthink. There's a balancing act of overthinking things. Like,
I agree.
Yeah. It's a tough, it's a fine line.
I almost get anxious. So many theories.
Yeah. So we have an interview with Andreas, who does TV Peaks.
Yes.
And I think we're going to do this into 2 parts. So we'll have part 1 this week, and part 2 we'll have of Andreas next week.
So here's Andreas.
We're on the phone with Andreas Husco. You've written the book TV Peaks. You've got a book I think you're working on, or at least an English version of your book.
Yes, essentially it'll be sort of the Danish book, which is roughly translated into English as The Art of Paradox, will form a sort of foundation for the English book. It won't be an actual translation of it, but the basic gist of it will be the same, but then I've done a lot of interview work that was never part of the Danish book. The Danish book is a monograph about David Lynch, so there's absolutely no interview work in that. And having talked with a lot of different people who've worked not only on Twin Peaks, but on a lot of different productions, interview stuff will be intermixed with my analyses of his different productions. And there were a few productions in the Danish book that I didn't really delve that deep into for different reasons. But one reason was a matter of length. I could only make it 200 pages. So this will be approximately 300 pages, and there will be analyses also of some of his lesser known works, but to average readers, like On the Air and Hotel Room and stuff like that. There won't be analyses of One Saliva Bubble and the Lemurians and stuff like that. But apart from those, really fringe elements, it'll be all of it will be in there. At least all of his actual audiovisual productions that have actually seen fruition, not just at either script or idea level. So actually conceived stuff. But I'll dig into One Saliva Bubble, the script, and some of his other stuff on a different book that won't come out until next year. Joel Bacco and I are still working on it.
Very nice.
In the first stages of the Mark Frost book. But so we've sort of given each other different kinds of homework. We read the script for One Saliva Bubble, and I've talked with Tony Krantz about these early, never produced scripts and stories that weren't even really conceived even at script level, like the Lemurians. We'll have those elements also in the Mark Frost book, which is played around with different potential titles, and nothing is certain at this point, but Twin Peaks will form sort of a central point of departure in that book, because I think whereas David Lynch's body of work is so well known and so immense, even though there aren't that many productions, all of his productions almost are pretty famous. So Mark Frost has done some interesting stuff, but people know him mostly as forgotten twin of Peaks, right? So that'll be our point of departure, and then we'll delve into all of his work on Hill Street Blues and those lesser-known productions that he's done, trying to see how his stuff with David Lynch, how that resonates with other stuff that Mark Frost has done. Hopefully, and we won't be able to, I think, say exactly what is the Mark Frost part of Twin Peaks, but hopefully going out on a limb, we'll be able to say a few words on what the Frostian part of Twin Peaks and their collaboration is.
You're so busy. I mean, I'm so excited every once in a while you talk about on Facebook who you've been interviewing, and I can't wait to read your work. I mean, it's really exciting everything you've been doing. And it wasn't that long ago, the Cannes Film Festival. You got to go. Can you share with us a little bit about your experience there?
As you know, I'm part of the staff at 16 by 9, which is it's kind of it's an actual international journal, and it's a peer-reviewed journal, so it is I suppose a good scholarly journal in Denmark, but it's still a very small one. So I had not thought that I could get accreditation for that, as a writer of that journal. I just applied for accreditation at Cannes thinking that it was absolutely impossible, given that it's such a small journal and it's from such a small country. So the amount of, readers, nothing compared to, even lesser known American journals or online magazines. But then a couple of months later, after virtually all the different parts of the Danish press had heard that they were going to go to Cannes, or if they were not going to go, sort of forgotten all about it because I hadn't heard anything. And then late March that I received news that I could go as part of the Danish press. I applied there only to go to see Twin Peaks. So that's kind of strange, right? One thing is that Twin Peaks was the second show in the history of the Cannes Film Festival ever to be aired on the festival. It's not a, it's sort of a prestigious film festival, as you know, and still, it's pretty conservative. So still at Cannes, they consider TV to be less important or less artistic as compared to films. So the fact that the Top of the Lake, the new installment of that, and that Return of Twin Peaks, both premiered at Cannes was pretty new then, right, and pretty strange. And so I went there only, essentially only that. But then, of course, I did reviews of films too. And given that Twin Peaks ended up being aired so late at the Cannes Film Festival, it already premiered, at Showtime and around the world once I got to see it at Cannes.
So did you actually get to see it on Showtime first, or was your first viewing at Cannes?
Yeah, I saw it I saw it via HBO. There's HBO Nordic, which is the Danish. They're the Scandinavian outlet, I suppose. They release it almost simultaneously. I think the idea is that they should release it simultaneously with the American release, but often there's kind of a 2-hour delay or something like it, because it's supposed to come out at around 3 a.m. every Monday morning, I think it is. And usually I stay awake hoping to catch those episodes just before going to work. And sometimes they won't come out until 5 a.m. So that's kind of stretching it in terms of, being able to get to work. But yeah, I saw it on my computer before I got to see it at Cannes.
Yeah. And you didn't get to go into the big theater?
Not on the one where David Lynch was there. Right. I would have loved to be there.
But that was so impressive, though, to be able to see that standing ovation for Twin Peaks, and to see the emotion of Lynch and how he felt about that. And I mean, I know you probably know more than me because it's historical, but 1992, we have Fire and Walk with Me, and at least many people say it was booed at the Cannes. So to have 25 years later to be able to have that standing ovation, and it lasted several minutes. I mean, it lasted a long time. It actually got to a point where Lynch was he's like, let's go.
Yeah. Yes, I think he's like most humble people. He will admit to, I think, actually having liked getting that standing ovation for so long, but it might have been still kind of awkward for 5 minutes or so, having to stand there and but he and receive all that all those accolades, being so happy about his production. I think it was well deserved, and I suppose that some of the stories surrounding the airing of Fire Walk with Me back in 1992, might have been mythologized just a little bit. So there were people who weren't that happy when the film came out, and we all know that. And critics kind of disliked it en masse when it came out, and there were people who booed it at Cannes. But I mean, this was my first ever time at Cannes, so I wouldn't know what the normal procedure is. But there are films, there are many examples of people booing at Cannes, and it's not like everyone in the theater does it. But there were people who booed when Sofia Coppola got the prize or got the award for Best Director, and because they kind of thought of her new film, The Beguiled, as a slightly reactionary or not that groundbreaking film. And there were people who booed because stuff was shown in the incorrect format and stuff like that. So, or aspect ratio. So I'm not sure that that it was that intense a denial of his work back in 1992. But the mythological story is a great one. It's a story not only of a return, but it's a story of a rejuvenation or of a coming or of an actual comeback, right? Because 10 years ago that he produced his last, major production, an Inland Empire, I think was a very interesting film, but now he's back in what seems to be his best shape, and he's able to get not 34 million Americans to watch it, perhaps, but still a relatively broad audience to watch something that I think, people just wouldn't have watched 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Blue Rose magazine just came out, and you have an interview with Mark Frost. I mean, that was wonderful that you got to talk with him, and you put it in the Blue Rose magazine. That was really cool.
Yes, I was happy that they wanted to include that interview because, I did it for a sound venue, but then that was a short version of it, and they wouldn't want the full interview. It's a major Danish publication, but it's sort of a pop cultural magazine, and it's not meant for everyone. So, or it's meant for a broad audience. Sorry, and Mark Frost isn't for everyone. So, even though Twin Peaks is a huge phenomenon, it's still kind of niche-like as compared to whatever else they write about. Right? So they wanted just a small version of that, and of course in Danish. So I was allowed to, by the Danish press secretary, to make an American version of it, find an English publication for it. And then I asked John and Scott Ryan whether they wanted it, and they said that they wanted it. So that was, of course, nice for me. I mean, talking with Mark Frost was very enlightening to me. I've heard people say that some people, vehemently dislike his book.
Oh, yeah.
I like his. I really like his book.
Me too.
And more than I do, or than anyone else, I suppose, about all of these debates or sometimes heated discussions about so-called discrepancies or inconsistencies. And I don't know. Maybe there are inconsistencies, but then...
I feel like he's doing it on purpose, though. I mean, I think we're definitely going to learn more when the next book comes out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's what he says. I mean, and I don't know. Perhaps I'm naive, but I tend to believe him. I mean, he was pretty convincing, and perhaps there are elements that he wouldn't be able to remember. But I can't believe that he would sit down and write a book without actually rewatching the show, or without knowing essentially what happens in the show.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't think that he would write a 300-page book and not mention Annie Blackburn as a mistake.
Yes.
I mean, or to mention that the winner of the Miss Twin Peaks pageant was Lana Budding Milford or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, stuff
right.
like that.
Right.
Those are discrepancies or inconsistencies that would not come into that book per accident, I don't think.
Andreas, I'm so glad you bring that up, though. I'm so glad you bring it up because, you read the book and you see, oh, how is he getting all this stuff wrong? And then all of a sudden, the series is out now, the new series, The Return of Twin Peaks, and these episodes, they definitely seem to be making references to the original series. And so it's funny about Lynch and Frost are saying, oh no, we didn't go back to we didn't watch the old series. But it seems clear when we're watching the series, either they do have a good memory or they did rewatch it. And so I do feel like the book was done on purpose.
Thanks, Andreas, for being on today's show. Part 2 of that interview will be on next week, so please join us. And you can follow us at Twin Peaks Unwrapped on Twitter. How's Twitter going, Ben?
Twitter is blowing up. We have so many people with so many theories. I mean, I think I'm sharing a lot on today's show from what people are saying on Twitter. So I love all the community and what they have to say about the show. They are amazing.
Yeah. And on Facebook, we're almost reaching 800 likes.
Awesome.
So please like us on Facebook. Be part of our conversation we're having every week on there, and I'll read some of the stuff on the show. You can email us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. You can find us on Google Play. You can please rate and subscribe and give us a comment in iTunes.
Yeah, give us those 5 stars, and we really could use those comments because that's how other people discover our show. And thank you to everyone who's done that already.
Yes, and we're on Stitcher as well. You can find us on Stitcher.
And you can always go to twinpeaksunwrapped.com, and all our shows are there as well.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
So, what do we got? Packet of new Walker's Ruffles. Yeah, I'll hold. Ruffles are ridged potato crisps. The actual crisp itself shaped into lots of little peaks. Yeah, I'm still here. And if I'm right, these ridges hold in a lot more flavor and make Ruffles extra crunchy. Yeah, good work, Mac. I was right. These Ruffles are darn fine crisps. Ruffles. More ridges, more taste.